Thank you for watching Conscious Consumer Network. The live stream broadcast is free to view. You can pause and rewind live broadcasts to catch up, or view shows at a later date by accessing our free archives of all shows. Check out our broadcast guide to see what's on. You can show your support by donating to our network support fund. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or subscribe to the monthly newsletter for updates. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.
All right, we're back with Stop South African Genocide after an amazing hour with Alex Newman. And of course, that was a very interesting perspective of someone who's lived in the South African culture and now looks at it from the outside in, as do Karin and I. And talking about that, Karin and I are in the unique position of being in contact with a number of people and also sort of getting the information that needs to be got out, which is what we do on the show. So we decided to take the second hour to do a bit of a catch-up with some of the things that's been going on behind the scenes. Now, I don't know, Karin, where do you want to go with this one first? Because obviously there's a lot to discuss here.
I think what we need to reassure people, Mel, is that the secession is real. And that the silence for the last month has not been because things are not happening. Because people doubt the veracity of this thing. Many people, especially people in South Africa, are saying some quite rude words about it because there's been silence. Nobody else has come forward. The King has been on a couple of shows. We've had the legal advisor on to reassure people that it's legal, and then dead silence. So people are nervous and not willing. They're all sitting on the fence. It's kind of like Alex said, he's sitting on the fence waiting to see which way the chips fall. That's what everybody's doing. And without backing, this thing is not going to happen properly. It's happened, it's real, but it's not going to happen the way it's meant to if we don't have the backing of the people. But without voices talking about it, we're not going to get their backing. So it's kind of a catch-22 that we're in here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the really sad thing is that, well, actually, it's kind of from a position of observation. When you understand how the globalist agenda is playing out, it makes only perfect sense that the mainstream media are not covering it, because it only shows that they are in fact controlled by at one level the government, but at a higher level the cabal stroke intelligence agencies, which are in effect the sort of behind the scenes machine working at this. And well, you know, it's interesting to hear Alex's a sort of very professional observation of, you know, the farm murders and saying how these people come with professional equipment and stuff, because I've been saying for years, and I wrote about this in my book, that this is an intelligence agency. You don't just have people walk into a farm, decide to start torturing somebody. I mean, you're trained and shown how to do this, and that training comes from the same people that's supplying them with that equipment, okay? There is definitely a dark cult agenda. There's cult indoctrination going on, and it's very dark and very subversive. And this is the thing, is that at the very heart of everything that's going on, there's a very dark beast at work, if I dare use that term. And this is what's working against us, against these amazing people who, like the King, who are willing to stand up, willing to put their life on the line, because they come from a place of pure love, pure light, wanting to help the people. And this only shows just how powerful those forces of darkness are, that they're able to keep silent an entire international media body about something as important as a secession of such an amazing part of the world that is South Africa. So, you know, this only it only proves what we already know. And it gives more weight and more evidence to this argument. For me, I think we do have to go with this is a legitimate process. This is a legitimate monarch making a legitimate claim. Paperwork is all legal and valid, even by the United Nations standards. But again, as Alex pointed out, the United Nations is nothing more than an organization for facilitating the globalist agenda. Are we even going to have them stepping up and validating this claim, even though it's legal within their own framework and parameters? This is obviously what people are waiting for. And my honest opinion is it's not going to come from the United Nations. We're not going to get anything from them. I myself know I've taken papers to the International Criminal Court myself. I've filed papers on several occasions and had absolutely nothing. I've got the receipts of the filings, everything. And of course, you know, they've been absolutely mute on the situation with regards to the genocide going on in South Africa. The refugee situation, where Alex very clearly pointed out, you can come from any non-Christian background, be pink, purple, blue, black, but as long as if you're a white Christian Afrikaner, you stand no chance of being classified as a refugee. So there is a very dark, subversive element at work here, and it is absolutely no surprise that we're seeing this kind of blockage happening towards the efforts of the secession, because it is, for me, the one real solution that we have. That's just the bottom line. So there is a lot going on behind the scenes, and obviously I know you've been in touch with the Royal Flat House of the Khoisan, as have I. We've been in discussions over the last week trying to put some media strategies in play, but they're kind of laying low at the moment. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on that even we can't talk about because we're not allowed to. We've just been advised for security reasons what is happening. And it's really sad to see good people in a situation where they've put their lives on the line and now are literally potentially fearing for their lives because of this very bold move that they've made, which they've done, and under the very good graces of God, and also with the benefit of the greater good in mind. There is no there is no selfish intent here. There is no attempts to usurp a country and create a dictatorship where people suffer and die and revolutions and blood and all that kind of thing. Only peace and collaboration is wanted by the king and in fact, all the people who have collaborated on this. And I don't know if you want to comment, Karin, because obviously you and I have been talking a bit about some of the politics that's been flying around behind the scenes. And I do want to talk very much to the theme of everybody uniting on our common ground, because there seems to be an inability for people to find that common ground, which for me ultimately is the pursuit of a fair, just, peaceful, sustainable South Africa, which it's not at the moment.
Yes, yes, and that is why this happened. That is why the Khoi King stood up, because if we think, and this is a serious point, if we think that the white minority has been badly treated and dispossessed and legalized against, and the Khoi people have never been given any say in their own future. The white people at least had a couple of years, 50 odd years under the Nationalist Party, where they controlled their own destiny. They were sold out, but that's a story for another day. The Khoi people never even had that. Never. They've never, by any government, been recognized as people, as the original people of the country. They've never had any rights nor any voice. So if we think we are suffering, they have suffered longer and worse. And their king finally said, look here, this is now enough. In 1994, we thought we would have a voice. We thought we would have freedom. We thought, but none of it is happening. So it is time to stand up. And despite everything that has been done to his people, he held out his hand and he said, this is not just for us. This is for all of us. As he said to us, take my hand, climb in my chariot with me, and let's do this together. Now, despite the fact that Mel and I agree that this is the only legal, semi-peaceful way, because I don't think the ANC will take it totally peacefully, but semi-peaceful way to get autonomy and self-determination for the white minority. The fighting amongst that minority has shocked even the king and queen. They did not realize how horrifically divided the white people are. And we are divided on foolish things that do not matter when your life is at stake, when you are likely to be broken into your house and an electric drill taken to your body until you bleed to death. Does the Boer War and the internment camps really matter in a situation like that? Do you think that the black invaders are going to ask you, are you an Afrikaner? Are you a Boer? Are you English? Are you Greek? Or do you come from Mars? They don't care. They are there because you are white, and they are going to kill you in the most horrible ways that they can think of. So people, please, I plead with you from every fiber of my being, from the bottom of my heart, with everything I can possibly say to you. Join hands in this endeavor to keep you safe, to ensure that from the 31st of December or the 28th of this month, I'm not sure which date is correct, but to ensure that you may come out of this alive. And unless you band together and speak with one voice and present a unified face to the ANC and to the world, you are going to have very little chance of survival. And we have been given until 2040, until there are no whites in South Africa. I do not believe that for 1 second, that we have another 23 years at our disposal. I think they are getting rid of us as quickly and as violently as possible. This weekend, 8 farm attacks and 3 murders, and that's just farms. That is not the urban deaths, because keeping a handle on those is practically impossible. People, can't you see? Can you not see that this is a matter of life and death? It's not a matter of, I can't close the door and walk away from my farm. You may have to close your coffin lid and be buried if you don't do that. And I know it's a huge decision. I know that your parents are probably buried on your farm, and your grandparents as well. I know that it's your history, your culture, your life. But if you don't have a life, will any of that matter? We need to join together, present a unified face and voice to the world, and try and save ourselves, because nobody is coming to save you.
Yeah, it's a very sad state of affairs. And, you know, I've noticed this, you know, myself. I don't really participate in a lot of these groups on Facebook and social media anymore, because I see the infighting and the aggression and the ugly words and the hatred that these people have for each other. And sometimes I kind of look at this and go, you know, you actually deserve nothing less than what you're getting if this is how you go with each other. You're actually all in the same position here. You're all under threat, and you all now need to pull together and make some pretty tough decisions about survival. We only need to look at the statistics, as you already mentioned. 1 million people in squatter camps. You're going to end up there. And those squatter camps, you're sitting ducks. I mean, that's the perfect place for them to come and, you know, drop a nice little bomb or send in the army and genocide you all off, you know, guns and whatnot. And you can see it happening, because it's happened in other parts of the world. We've seen Robert Mugabe doing this very same thing, going into squatter camps where there are these impoverished people and just, you know, killing them off. It's like sweeper operations in a genocidal fashion. And here's a recent, again, I love the fact that you guys brought this up today, because his recent appointment by the World Health Organization shows, just despite the fact that there is an international travel ban against him because of his human rights abuse policies, despite that fact, they still recognize him in enough capacity to appoint him as an ambassador of anything. I mean, never mind the healthcare system. It's quite astonishing. But we also need to look at who's behind the intelligence agencies that are funding these cult groups, that are supplying the special equipment to these people that are going and attacking farms and torturing people, because it all traces back to the same places. We only need to look at the fact that Robert Mugabe was given special permission to travel to the Vatican to attend the beatification or canonization of the late Pope John Paul II. Despite the fact that there was an international travel ban on him. So, you know, we've got organizations who, you just have to look at, you know, where the allowances are coming from to see who actually see this man with enough reverence to do things like that, fly him in on private planes, give him that sort of pardon that nobody else will give him. And that's the people that are behind this, that are funding the intelligence organizations. As we know, the Roman cult, as I call them, control all the intelligence networks of the world and control all mainstream media, anything of significance. And a lot of the alternative media as well, which is why we call ourselves independent media. And we're seeing that the same patterns are playing out in different ways in different countries, as we've been pointing out again and again. It's lovely to have different people coming on and recognizing the various parallels between South Africa and America, even in history. It's very important for people to understand that these patterns point to something quite terrifying. And we need to all of us internationally start looking at what's going on. But specifically with regards to, what's happening amongst the people on a ground level in South Africa who can't come together, that is frightening, because I think they're in a way just ignorant of just how encased they are in this web, that it's not just little old South Africa down the bottom that's going. This is something that's playing out across the world. South Africa is just the most extreme example of it. And the infighting is not getting us anywhere. And I'm really saddened that the King and Queen had to be exposed after all that they've done, coming forward with the secession, very bravely doing what they're doing, that they have to be exposed to this, group of white people who are fighting each other over labels, over words. If I'm not mistaken, they didn't like the word Eurokaner or the word Afrikaner. In fact, they wanted to be referenced as Boers, which cares? You're in trouble. That's you fit into the group that's in trouble. That's all that matters. And there is someone who is able to help you, and this is the way they're behaving. It's really sad to watch, and I'm absolutely sickened to my core. That the King and Queen have had to observe this, such beautiful people. And I'm sure, they've had this realization that I myself have had some time ago, that perhaps these people are beyond help. Perhaps they are doing this to themselves.
Yep. Yeah, Mel, we spoke about this last week, both of us in tears.
Yeah.
In private, we spoke about this. And I wasn't sure that we should go public. But I think somebody has to address it, because, as you say, the horribleness, the nastiness, the foul language, is this the way that South Africans want the world to see them? Because many of these groups on Facebook are international groups. They are not South African only. They were started, one in particular, by an American lady who is so touched by the white plight in South Africa, she wants to help. So what do? We, as South Africans, go on there and use the K word and swear at somebody else because we don't like the fact that you calling them Afrikaners, because I'm not an Afrikaner, I'm a Boer. And the rest of the world looks on in horror. And there were comments by the admin of that group last week saying that, really, I don't know why I bother. You people don't deserve saving. And I'm sorry to say that if you are not prepared to help yourselves, then us two ladies on opposite sides of the world cannot be expected to do it for you. We cannot carry that burden. And this morning, my shoulders sagged because I heard bad news from South African Family Relief Project. I heard bad news from the King and Queen. I heard infighting and swearing, and this is just BS. This thing is not true. Look at what Front National said. Front National said this is crap. And Daniel Lotter said this, and I believe him. And people, if you cannot help yourselves, then there's not much we can do to help you. If this is the face that you are presenting to the world on social media, and all you can do is fight and swear and just be disgusting to each other. The world is not going to rally to your aid. The world is going to look at you and say that everything we heard about white South Africans is true. You are racist, horrible people. And you're doing it to yourselves. And it's a horrible thing to observe. It is dreadful that we are trying to create peace. We are trying to draw attention to your plight. We are trying to help you. And all you are doing is showing how wrong we are to stand up and fight for you.
Yeah. You know, the sad reality, Karen, I've said this to you before when we've had chats like this, is that I actually kind of came to that conclusion a little while back. But I refused to allow the ugliness of the world to make me twisted and jaded. I refuse to allow myself to sink to that level, which is one of the reasons why I don't participate on this Facebook groups much. You know, a lot of people say, well, you know, you're not really active on social media with regards to this. It's because, you know, when I do post stuff, I mean, even people, they misread things. Like I'll just post something from my Conscious Consumer Network. They go, oh, we don't watch CNN. I'm like, this is not CNN, it's CTN.
Yes, yes.
And then when I attack you and they won't read properly and they get all hit up and then it gets ugly. And I refuse to continue to invest energy into things that just end in ugliness. And again, it's a reason why I don't participate in many of the groups that I'm a part of, although I know we do watch them kind of with a distant eye to see any of the interesting stuff that gets posted. But it's almost like there is a lack of community. There is. And to a certain extent, I do want to say that the average person has been so hurt, has been so broken, particularly in South Africa. We are so encrusted with fear. And sometimes that's all we know how to project is that anger. And it comes out in the most horrendous way. And really, what we need to do is, it's a deep spiritual breath we need to take here. Like, take a big yogic breath and just let that anger out peacefully, okay? Just breathe it all out. Breathe through it. And think about what we are projecting into the morphic field around us. What are we creating? You know, what is our energetic output creating? Are we inviting this trouble to us because of the way we are behaving? Because, you know, that's how energetics work. Like attracts like, you know, check out the laws of resonance. I suggest you check out the work of Japanese scientist Masaru Emoto, who I've met myself in person. We talk about how a resonance of a negative frequency will attract negative frequency. Positive frequencies repel negative frequencies. So it's, you know, they're not going to come together. Yet if we're putting out that positive vibrations, the positive intents, and, you know, I'm not one of these people that go, you know, let's go meditate the world's problems away, because, you know, just I'm more practical. I'm a journalist, so I'm very grounded. What I would like to say is that if we don't show the willingness to move past the small stuff, the petty bullshit, okay, we actually don't deserve anything more than we're getting. And this is a lesson maybe people need to learn in small ways, just even in their day-to-day lives, is how to focus on and pick your battles and not get caught up by the irrelevant nonsense. Because guaranteed, if you put a lot of that drama aside and actually contemplate who you are in the bigger spectrum of things and what you can do to contribute to creating a better world, then you'll start to realize that getting involved in petty slanging matches and using ugly words towards people you don't even know on Facebook just as an externalization point of your anger, really all you're doing is adding to the greater negativity that is already pervasive and damaging the world and manifesting in evil and ugly deeds perpetuated by, for example, the African National Congress government. You want to be adding to that? I mean, really, people need to think about how they're contributing to the darkness and the morphic field with the way in which they communicate with each other, with the labels they use, with the intention with which they engage their brothers and sisters, their South African brothers and sisters. And, you know, the Khoisan King, after years of the Khoisan not being recognized, being able to forget all that, being able to forgive, not focus on the petty nonsense and say, okay, now we need to unite on our common ground. If we are ever to make a difference, for them to stand there and watch these ungrateful people carry on in a manner that, I'm ashamed to be a part of that. I don't even know if I want to be a part of those groups because of how they're behaving. You know, I'm just glad I'm kind of sitting on the outside, reporting, understanding, absorbing, digesting, putting out, and, in my specific way. I'm not going to get behind any of these groups and go, I'm part of the Boers, because I'm actually sometimes rather ashamed at how emotionally immature these people are. They lack emotional intelligence in the way in which they communicate. Fair enough. I understand that some of them might be frightened, some of them might be angry, some of them have suffered horrendous things, have really loss of, unparalleled. But this is where we need to find it within ourselves to rise above that. And really, again, I don't want to sound like a new age fruitcake when I say, find the love. Yeah, really go deep and find that love, find that willingness to move past that unnecessary ugliness that is rotting your soul. It doesn't benefit you, and it doesn't benefit anybody else that you spew your ugliness at. And recognize the unique opportunity that's been given by a truly amazing man. I really do wish I get to meet him one day so I can give him a big hug, whether this works or not. I will always respect the king for what he's done, because this is a huge play. This is monumental.
And yet even South Africans can't get behind it. And I spent an hour speaking to Alex about why the world can't get behind it. Because you won't. You, the very people this is meant to benefit and to help, cannot get behind the one thing that can legally, internationally, legally save your lives. You have been talking about self-determination for 22 years. Here it is on a silver platter. Somebody's done it for you. You don't even need to go and do it. It's been done for you. Put your voice and your weight behind it. Make this a reality. Help to create this safe place for you that you've been talking about for so long. Are we only keyboard cowboys who can only sit behind a keyboard and be rude to each other? Or are we people who are serious about the life, the chances of freedom for our people? Are we serious about that, or are we not?
Yeah. And this is the question we have to ask ourselves. And I sometimes use this analogy when I speak to some of my more awakened friends. And I go, if we were given freedom on a plate tomorrow, would we know what to do with it? Because look at the way in which we carry on in our current state.
Yeah.
And for example, the king talks about everybody being given an amount of money, once everything was through, to start their business or whatever else, do something constructive with it. The honest truth is, you and I both know that at least 90% of those people will just totally blow through that. They won't be able to take that money and go, okay, how can I use this to create something that's beneficial for the greater good, for my family, for longevity? People are just not capable, just not mature enough, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, to cope if true freedom was given to them. And I think that's really where we are. As we're looking at a place and time where the world is fundamentally messed up, largely, and one of the things that has contributed to that is the dumbing down of people through things like education, bad food, mainstream media, all that kind of thing has contributed to creating these people who have severe psychological schisms, as we clearly see on these, interactive chat pages on Facebook and social media, wherever else. But as a result, we're not now able to rise up and meet the challenges with which we're faced. First off, if we all came together, we could overthrow the powers that be, the globalists, overnight.
Yeah.
But this is, for me, a microcosmic example of exactly why we're not getting anywhere, why actually we are only marching further into our own demise. We don't need them with guns behind our heads. We're willingly walking there because of the way we behave, our attitudes, our projections, instead of actually, and again, I want to be a spiritual fruitcake, but it really is about, being conscious, being present, connecting with your fellow human being, understanding them and being empathic to the suffering, being unselfish enough to give a damn to try and do something.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other thing. Mel, we speak so often about people in South Africa don't have money, so they can't help each other. There are plenty of people in South Africa with money, but they just won't help each other because the people with the money are either deliberately blind to the problem or have their heads in the sand because their life is too lovely behind their barricaded houses with their swimming pool and their rich friends, and everything is too nice, so we're not going to look at anything nasty because it's just not going to impact on my reality. So there are enough resources amongst the rich whites in South Africa to help feed those in the camps, but they will not, because they cannot find it in themselves to even notice it, much less do something about it. So you and I are sitting here trying to break down those barriers, trying to bring some humanity into these people's hearts. I just think that we're hitting our head against a brick wall. We spoke about this, how much easier it would be to just give up and go and talk about nice things. Talk about good things, talk about spiritual things, talk about things that make us happy rather than things that give us nightmares. And can't these people see that if they're not prepared to help themselves, then nobody can help them? Because yes, I agree, we must pray, but God never said he would do it for them. God helps those who help themselves. So pray and then get up off your knees and do something. Take some constructive action. Help your neighbor. Go and visit a camp. Take them some money. Make plans to go to the Cape. Reach out to the king. Speak to him yourself if you have doubts about what he's doing. He is so approachable, as is the Queen. Speak to them. Tell them your worries, your doubts. They'll answer you. They're not up on some throne somewhere where you have to crawl on your hands and knees to address them. They're willing to talk to anybody, to explain it to anybody. Do something constructive. Don't sit behind your keyboard and fight with other people all day.
Yeah, very well said, Karin. Absolutely. It is about finding that thing in the world that you can do in your own small way to try and make a difference. Goodness knows you and I are very stretched on resources, and both of us have sacrificed tremendous amounts just to be able to continue to do this work, to be able to communicate about this with this information from a place that we've researched it well. We've spoken to enough people to get enough different perspectives to have, I'd say a proper cross-meshed idea of what is really going on. And also having had that experience of growing up in that culture, understanding what it's truly all about, really having experienced that unfortunate white guilt complex that was foisted upon us with the apartheid dogma, and really having to dig deep and go, really, am I guilty of all that?
Yeah.
No, we didn't do that. My family, no, we didn't do all those horrible things. Why should we be persecuted? Why are we being persecuted? Why are our people being persecuted? When all of this stuff is clearly manipulated, clearly part of a one world order agenda, clearly part of the intelligence agency, mainstream media controlled operation to get us thinking in a certain way. And when you start to uncover all of that, and you start to realize what is really going on, this is where each person has an opportunity to rise above that. Yeah, you can sink to that dark level, get angry and get hit up and, go on Facebook, making, blurting out expletives and generally being a nuisance. Or you can rise above that and look at how you can contribute to creating a better world. Because ultimately, it starts with the individual. It starts with all of us coming to that understanding of what's really going on, and realizing there's certain behaviors on our part only feed the dark agenda. And that means we need to find that space where we work from, again, a place of love, a place of heart. Forget about the ugliness. Be forgiving. Be proactive. Be forward-thinking. Don't look back with anger. Look forward with hope and do something.
And Good Hope is giving you hope on a silver platter. Please understand this, on a silver platter. He has answered everything that the Boer and the Afrikaners and the Eurokaners and the Greeks and the Portuguese and all of them have been asking for years. He's given it to you. Here is my present to you. Take my hand and join me. And his hand is being left standing out there without one person grabbing onto a fingernail. Why? Do you not want this? Is it not what you've been asking for, begging for, asking someone to help you make it happen? What is the problem with it that you cannot get on board? Was it all just, I want it, but don't give it to me? I don't understand.
You know, Karin, I once worked with a psychologist when I worked in mainstream media in London. And I mean, I worked with several psychologists who worked on various productions with me. They assess and analyze our contributors that were coming in. And one of them actually made a very clear point to me. They said, people, in a way, are almost so afraid of their own success because they don't have what it takes to deal with it.
Yeah. Yes.
A lot of people self-sabotage.
Yes.
And I see this playing out microcosmically in the psyche of those who have been battered and oppressed, is that, you know, like I say, even if they were given the success, would they actually know how to deal with it, what to do to sustain and grow? You know, because we've been programmed into a very consumeristic mindset, which is nothing but a negative downward spiral. If everybody was, for example, given $1 million tomorrow, most people would run out and buy Ferraris, and, you know, they wouldn't think, okay, so how do I perhaps create a self-sustaining lifestyle for myself and my immediate community with this resource? People don't think like that. And this is where we're at. We're stuck with, yeah, they want it, but actually they don't want to really do the work to get there. Because let me tell you, freedom ain't free. It's not just handed to you and then everything's hunky-dory. We are too damaged to understand what the ideal hunky-dory would be. All right, that's the reality, is most people are just too damaged. There is a huge healing of perceptions that needs to go on. And to a certain extent, independent media is responsible for helping people to heal their perceptions. And we do it one person at a time with every person that accesses one of our archives or watches one of our shows. That is what it's all about for me, is healing the perceptions of a largely damaged and manipulated mass populace so that they can get to a point where when our freedom comes, they will know what to do with it. Because at the moment, every opportunity being handed to them on a silver platter is being sabotaged by who? Themselves.
Yes, yes. You know, even the people who started this movement for the secession are sabotaging themselves. It's, and I can't say more than that because what goes on behind the scenes is not for public consumption, but it's, I think the pressure on social media, which is not really a lot of people, there's a couple of handfuls of people who are making a lot of noise. Empty barrels make the most sound mostly, and that's my comment on that, but making a hell of a lot of noise and putting off a whole bunch of other people. It is, it's just, I can't, I thought when I heard about this before it happened that this was going to be the greatest thing ever, and yet people don't see it that way. Or as long as they don't have to leave their comfortable home in Johannesburg. If you bring this secession to Johannesburg, then I might be part of it, because this is where I live and this is where my home is, and I'm not going to walk away from it. The king has given up an awful lot and has put himself in extreme danger, and you need to be prepared to give up something in order to be part of it.
Yes. Yes, absolutely, Karen. Is there anything else that we wanted to catch up on? Because I think we've hammered that particular issue.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was my biggest bugbear at this time. The crime statistics are horrendous. They speak for themselves. Things are hotting up in South Africa. You saw it over the weekend, the number of farm attacks, the number of deaths. Things are escalating. The threats are getting bigger. If you look at the posts on Twitter from Black Lives First and all these Black Land First, the EFF, the performance in Parliament, Zuma and the state capture. Zuma is like a cornered rat right now. He is at his most dangerous. Things are going to go south fast, in my opinion, because the world is pushing him into a corner. The FBI and the British intelligence services are after him. Things are not going to slow down in South Africa anytime soon. So whatever else you want to do, whether you want to be part of the secession, whatever else you want to do, stay safe, take care, take whatever preparations you can, and for heaven's sake, help your fellow man, because the guy next door to you may have bigger problems than you have, and he's not going to tell you. So help the people around you, because it starts with you. One little oh, excuse me, allergies. One little helping hand held out to your neighbor, and he will pass it on, and they will pass it on. And before you know it, we have got back to the warm, hospitable, caring, white South African society that I grew up in. We've moved so far away from that because we live behind our walls through necessity, through no will of our own. We are scared of our neighbors. We are scared of everyone in the street. We're scared of the people in the supermarket. We're scared of the people at work. We're scared to go to work because you have to go and get in your car and drive through a taxi blockade and things. I understand all of that. But human kindness, a little act of kindness for somebody today will go such a long way to making South Africa a better place again.
Yes. And I do want to say, Karen, you're an shining example of a true and genuine heart, someone who, sacrifices so much to help so many other people. And I am ever so grateful and humbled to have you as a co-host on the show and to work with you and to know you and to be able to interact with you through the various challenges and complicated situations that you and I have to kind of navigate behind the scenes. And, I wish there were more like you, to be honest. It would make our jobs a lot easier.
Yep, my household, I don't want to go public, but my household has grown in size quite dramatically recently. And I am one frazzled old granny right now. I don't know. I put my hands out to so many people. But my biggest worry right now is the many jobs being lost in South Africa, thousands upon thousands of them, and the biggest growth in white suffering, white loss of jobs. Christmas is coming. Families are falling apart. Kids won't go back to school next year because they can't afford it. We need to get people to, if you're not leaving the secession aside completely, if that's not what you want to do, please, please, please help somebody else. Helps. It makes you feel better about yourself. It really does. There's such pleasure in doing good for somebody else with no thought of return. Just doing something nice for somebody else is such a nice, it lifts your spirit, makes you feel better about yourself. Go out and do something. Don't walk past those people on your corner with their pieces of cardboard saying, no work, family to feed. Don't walk past them and say, well, if I give them 10 cents, they're going to spend it on drugs. You don't know that. You don't know that they've got 3 or 5 children at home starving. Just help them. Even if they do go and spend it on booze today, you don't know that for sure. And you can walk away knowing that you've helped somebody. So please, something, anything. Just be kind to somebody today, because it's a small act of kindness that grows into a big, movement, and it makes you feel better, and it brings a smile to the person that you were kind to. Even a smile, a kind word, a pat on the shoulder to somebody at work who's not looking down today or looking sad. Be kind to them, because this world needs kindness so badly. Just be kind. Don't spew filth on Facebook. Be nice to somebody. It's my best advice.
That's sound advice. Thank you, Karin. I don't have much more to add to that. I think we're going to wrap up the show for this evening. It's been quite an epic one, a really good one. I must say I really enjoyed that interview with Alex Newman. And we are obviously keeping abreast of what's going on behind the scenes. Karin is relentless on checking on the South African news. And there's a number of projects that we're focusing on internationally that are geared towards creating a better world. So thank you to everybody who has tuned in to the CCN broadcast of Stop South African Genocide. Before we head off, Karin, just remind everybody where they can find you.
RadioFreeSouthAfrica.com. I try and keep up to date with it, but my YouTube channel is falling behind. I'm sorry, I just don't have the time these days to do YouTubes. They take so long. But also on Facebook, RadioFreeSouthAfrica.com. Of course, on Mel's channel, you'll find a lot of stuff that we've done together. And God bless you all, and God help the world we live in today.
Thank you, Karin. As always, you can check out the archives in ccn.media after the show. Also check out the broadcast guide for other broadcasts on Conscious Consumer Network via our website, consciousconsumernetwork.tv. Write to me, Mel V, at info@consciousconsumernetwork.tv. And of course, check out our South African activist page at stopsouthafricangenocide.org. That's been all for tonight. It's been a great one. And as always, we'll be back in our scheduled broadcast next week, same time, same place. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in. Lots of love. Goodbye.
If we want to change the world, we must first change the media. Mainstream media exists for the purposes of indoctrination and manipulation of public perception. The world of free and independent media is growing, and with the upsurge in information now available in the public domain, it has never been easier to access free and independent media. The exploration of this information resulted in an experimental project which would provide a fully supported space for researchers, whistleblowers, and seekers of all kinds to express themselves and educate the world. On the 1st of January 2015, Conscious Consumer Network was launched to the world. Nobody thought we would make it this far, but CCN is the longest running free and independent media network of its kind. CCN is a unique collaboration of hearts and souls, bringing you information from different perspectives to educate and inform. Since we started CCN, we have had only one desire: the pursuit of a free, fair, just, sustainable world, and this has not changed. Having overcome many challenges over the last 2 years, CCN is here to stay, and we've got great things lined up for 2017. Help keep CCN on the air by supporting the 2017 Network Support Fund.